All right, it's my pleasure to introduce the one, the only, Mr. Iron Mike Bogart. So everyone say hi. Mike, thanks for being here.
Man, thank you so much for having me.
We're doing it.
Awesome.
So yeah, we were just sitting here hanging out. We were talking about a bunch of stuff that probably would have been good to start with for this, but it was just, we were just kind of shooting the shit. But we were talking about some recording stuff and kind of just like what some projects that you were thinking about doing, and maybe like you know, where you had come from just with your career and what you were thinking about doing now. And I don't know, maybe we can start there. You can just share some insight.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's awesome to be back in San Diego. I love this city. This has been the city has been like a second home to me,
right?
For a long time. I lived here for almost 20 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yep. Yeah, I was in the Navy band, and I got stationed.
Right.
I got stationed with the Navy band in 1997, and then 1998. I started having some opportunities to sub on the Maynard Ferguson band.
Okay.
Just, you know, he had some shows. Actually, he did a show up in, I think it was up in Fallbrook.
Oh.
And it might have been at the high school. I think it was the high school that Chris Holliday used to teach school at.
Oh.
And that was the first time I met Chris.
Small world. That's so cool.
I know. It was just crazy because
Christopher played with you guys in that band, right?
Not at the time I was on.
Oh, okay, but he was
on Maynard's band.
Right.
Previous,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they called me and I subbed on a couple of dates, and then I had an opportunity. I got recommended to audition for the Tower of Power lead trumpet spot.
Of course.
And so I was kind of coming up on the 10-year mark in the Navy, and you know, my dream was to always play with these guys, you know, and at this level, and I figured that, you know, at coming up at the 10-year point, I thought, you know, if I'm ever going to do it, I got to do it now.
Right.
And so, you know, based on the fact that I've been able to hang and you know, not fold on subbing on Maynard's band.
Of course, yeah.
And getting called for a Tower audition, which I didn't get the gig, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'll go back to that in a second.
Okay, cool. That's kind of a good part of the story.
I came in second, but you know, just based on that, I decided, you know what? And fortunately, my daughter's mom, who I was married to at the time, she supported it 100%, because I wouldn't have done it without her support.
Okay.
And she had a good job too, so I took the leap, and
it was your chance.
I got out of the Navy, and I left the Navy. And,
okay.
And then in 1998, I was offered the full-time gig with Maynard Ferguson's band, which I really needed, because that's why I didn't get the Tower gig.
Okay.
So I think there were 11 trumpet players from all over. Like, there was one guy who flew up, I think, from Australia for the audition. I mean, it was by invitation only.
Okay.
And it was at Center Staging in Los Angeles, which is a big, like a rehearsal studio complex that a lot of artists use.
Okay.
So they were there for a week. It was right when David Garibaldi had just rejoined the band. So they had, like, it might have even been like 2 weeks blocked out where they were just rehearsing a brand new show, and they had, you know, they had this lead trumpet opening. They figured, well, while we're up here, we'll invite some trumpet players to come and audition. So I got invited, and I had a great audition. I mean, the planets were definitely in alignment. I knew, like, within the first, of course I was nervous as hell going in, but I think within the first 4 bars I was just like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, you were like, I'm home. Here we go.
I just knew, yeah. And you know, really encouraging banter in between the tunes and everything, and so long story short, I finished the audition. About 2 weeks later, I get the call from the manager. Her name, at that time, she'd been the band's manager for a long time. Her name was Michelle Zarin. She called me, and she's got, like, she's from New York, and she used to chain smoke, so she's got this really husky New York accent. She goes, Michael, this is Michelle. This is the hardest phone call I think I've had to make. So she tells me that she had to call all the trumpet players and let them know that, you know, they hired somebody. And she said she saved me for last because she wanted to let me know that the band really, really liked me, and that it was between me and the guy who got the gig.
Okay.
And the deciding factor was the fact that this guy had a resume that was a mile long. He played with the Four Tops and Temptations, done all this touring and all this stuff. My resume was literally one line. 10 years with the Navy Band. That was it.
I get you.
I had no touring experience, no recording experience, nothing. But I played my ass off in the audition. So what ended up happening was, I like I said, I got out of the Navy. I toured with Maynard Ferguson's band for a year. And then the trumpet player that they ended up hiring, he decided he wanted to move on and explore some other things. And they called me and they said, "Hey, what have you been doing for the last year?" And I said, "Well, I got out of the Navy and I've been touring with Maynard Ferguson's band."
Perfect.
And they were like, "That's fantastic, great. You want to join Tower of Power?" I was like, "Done."
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
That's how that happened. And
that's almost better. It's almost better that you were there. You were there to get the gig because you deserved it, but at the same time, it was just it wasn't your time yet. In the sense of I don't know. It's almost just perfect that that's how it went down, because you ended up going to do what you're already qualified to do, and they But the fact that you just ended up doing that anyways, and then the stars aligned. This is what we were just talking about. The stars just align, and then just call. This is perfect. He's been on tour. I don't know. That's just great.
And not only that, but I mean, of course, being a trumpet player, especially being a high note trumpet player, I mean, Maynard Ferguson was one of my main idols growing up. And he was already, I think he was 78 or 79 by the time I joined the band. So I was in one of the last trumpet sections that he had, and I just feel so blessed and so grateful that I had that opportunity to, and I learned so much from him.
What are some things that what was it like, and how did you learn things, and what did you learn? And
well, it's interesting, because that's actually something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Maynard he couldn't really explain what it was he did. And so he didn't really, as far as the physical part of playing trumpet, he couldn't really, and we never really asked him typical trumpet geek questions. Hey man, how do you play the high G at the end? You just didn't ask Maynard that kind of stuff.
I see what you're saying.
Because everything he did was just, it was just him. It was just a part of him. It's hard to explain, but it was just, it wasn't, he wasn't thinking about the physical aspect of the trumpet at all. He never did. It was just his being, his spirit,
his extension of him,
an extension of his soul, and of his physical body.
So you kind of learned.
I learned from. Well, I will tell you one piece of advice that he did give me. It was when I first joined the band, and he said, he told me I give this piece of advice to everybody when they first join the band. He said, I have one basic rule. It says, don't keep score on yourself, and don't keep score on your bandmates.
I love it.
So, obviously musically we know what that means.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, it sounds very simple, but putting that in practice, especially the internal dialogue.
Yeah, of course.
Not keeping score. But he was a master at that. He was a master at just completely being 100% in the moment.
Right.
Not even worrying about the last 4 bars that he played. Certainly not worried about the next 4 bars that he was just completely, totally in the moment.
Yeah, I like that. That's that's a cool philosophy. I feel like when I teach some of my students, or just I mean, really all you can teach is, I mean, at least for me, is just what you try and do. And I feel like that concept is, otherwise you get so caught up.
Yeah.
You get so caught up in your own mind, or worrying about what everyone else is doing, or am I good enough, or or I messed up, or it's just
yeah, it's a really easy thing to fall into, and it's so common, and it's something I think everybody does. It's human nature,
right?
And for me, to be able to break that habit, or, I mean, there's good days and bad days, but for the most part, having a solid, consistent meditation practice is what, and Maynard was really into that. He was really into meditating.
And honestly, I don't know anything about trumpet except for the fact that my friend gave me a cornet, and I sat there and tried to play it for a while, and was trying to figure out, and I just, man, ever since then, I still have it. It's over there, but I was like, man, I don't get how these guys do this. Specifically trumpet. Like when you guys are playing, and just like I've tried to make the noises, and like it's hard. Like I was able to play a major scale, and like, but I'm just like, dude, I don't understand like that much. Just the physicality of it, and like you're saying, like to like be like so, just like mentally zen, because it's like you just get worked every time, and good days or bad. I can imagine what it must have been like must be like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just I don't know. Trumpet is just brass, and it's just a whole nother beast. As a guitar player, like it's just. I don't know. I feel like it's just a world difference of like an instrument.
I think an argument could be made, and you know, I play a little bit. I play a little bit of a lot of different instruments, just enough to you know make me stupid. But I think an argument could be made that brass instruments, and I think especially the trumpet, because I also play a lot of low brass. I play a lot of trombone.
Yeah, I saw not yesterday, but the concert.
Oh yeah. The trumpet is the most physically demanding of any musical instrument. I don't think there's too many people that
would disagree. Yeah.
Well, there might be some drummers who might want to fight me on that, but just in terms of like all the different systems that you need to coordinate, you know, your breathing and your fingers and your tongue and your mouth cavity and all this stuff that. Plus, you know, just to be able to, especially the upper register, to be able to create the compression so that you're not relying on pressure on the chops. Just all this stuff to have to, that, you know, you can really end up getting up in your head. You know.
Wow.
But getting back to how I learned specifically, you know, from Maynard.
From Maynard,
I started saying, you know, that this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Okay.
Because he didn't verbalize things or talk about stuff. But from the moment I joined that band and first stood next to him on the bandstand until the moment I left, I grew as a trumpet player more in that year than I had in the previous, you know, at that point, I guess probably close to 20 years I've been playing.
Okay.
And, you know, college and studying with great, you know, and I've been thinking about, well, how is that? Why is that? I mean, so... You know, and this is just a theory, and it could be complete bullshit. I don't know. Okay. But this is what I've come up with.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
And part of it is because of I think is because of the Zoom thing too, and I'll kind of tie that in hopefully at the end.
Okay.
But so the human body is 63% water. The brain is like almost, I think it's like 75% water.
Okay.
Okay. Now, have you ever seen videos of the way that sound waves, the effect that sound waves have on water?
Oh, like
there's some amazing videos if you can Google it and look it up on YouTube or whatever. And there's these incredible, intricate, beautiful patterns. They almost look like Tibetan mandalas.
Yeah, I've actually
are created by different frequencies, and you can look at the different frequencies and the effect that it has on water.
I've seen that with like sand, where they do it on like a membrane, like a drum.
Yeah.
And then they vibrate it, and then you see these crazy patterns.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
I know exactly
the same thing with water.
Okay.
So I think, anyways, that when you have the experience of standing next to a great player, or you know, maybe you're in a lesson and you're getting to hear a great player like demonstrate something, but especially the opportunity I had to be able to actually stand next to Maynard or stand just behind Maynard and have his sound envelop me physically.
Sonically, you feel.
Sonically, not just feel, but I think that it can actually have an impact on the way that the brain and the neurons and all those connections are being made, and that there's like a learning that's taking place, not only on a physical level and on a neurological level, but on a metaphysical level as well. You know, and I think that's why, you know, I think we've all had this experience where, you know, maybe we sat in for the first time at a jam session with some musicians that were just a little bit better than us, or maybe we got called to do a rehearsal big band with some guys that were a little bit more seasoned pro, and all of a sudden you start to feel like, if you're able to relax, you start to feel like, wow,
you're
this
kind
is
of
the best
better.
I think I've ever played. I believe that that's why. Is because there's the sonic effect that it has on our body that raises our own abilities up to that level.
It raises the bar. Like now you're able to achieve here because you have to.
Right.
You're surrounded by that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the saying, right? What's the saying is surround yourself with people that are better than you, like, and then that lifts you up essentially. I mean, it's like, it's like that. I like it.
Absolutely.
I'm into that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So
that was an amazing experience.
I mean, honestly, to be able to sit next to someone like that, and just like you're saying, to be able to, I feel like you must absorb something, whether it's knowledge indirectly, subconsciously, sonically, whatever it is, or just watching how he does things and listening. And I mean, I'm sure it's on so many different levels, but how could that not help? You know what I mean? Like, how, and especially with this kind of music, it's like, I feel like it's, when you try and, one good thing about nowadays, like jazz is everywhere in a sense. It's like, it's in schools, it's in every country. It's like, it's everywhere. So it's like,
and we literally have just about everything that's been recorded at
our fingertips.
At our fingertips.
It's insane. Yeah, you can just pull it up on your phone or go on YouTube.
Which is a blessing in one respect, but
a curse in another.
And a curse in another. And I think the big curse is because, and especially coming out of this pandemic, is not being able to experiencing things live. Not being able to have that experience to allow our bodies to absorb stuff on a physical level. Because, I mean, we can have the greatest Yamaha...
Yeah, I see.
Quick Yamaha plug. We can have the greatest Yamaha studio monitor system in the world, and it's still not going to replicate, that experience of being physically in the same space as a musician doing what they do.
So, speaking of that, we just finished doing the big band concert. That's why you're down here.
Yep.
Tell me, like, because that was, you had made an announcement when we played Maynard's tune.
Humbug,
yeah. So you had, Mike made an announcement like, oh, this is, I'm so glad to be here. Well, maybe you could say it, because you know what I'm talking about. When you were like, I haven't played, this is probably like my first gig, because of the pandemic. And what did it feel like for you? Like, because you were stoked, I could tell.
Man, it was absolutely the best experience I could have had to be able to come out of such a long hiatus of not being able to play with live musicians. And in front of a live audience. It was exactly what was supposed to happen. It was exactly what I needed. And it was beautiful. And I'm so grateful for Matt and Charlie for putting this band together.
I'm stoked that
for inviting me to come down and play with you guys. I mean, it was beautiful.
That was great, man. You sounded good. I was having a blast.
Thanks.
Just playing like with a big band like that is just, I don't know. It's just, that's killing. And I haven't got to do too much of that, so it's nice to like be able to, I don't know, it's just fun.
Yeah, you sounded great too.
Thanks, man.
Everybody
it was great,
was
man.
it.
And that chart that you brought was cool.
That's a fun chart. Yeah.
What is it? Humbug?
It's called Humbug, right? It was a Don Sebesky. Well, it is a Don Sebesky original composition that, Maynard, back in the 50s and 60s, Maynard used to do a lot of stuff where he'd feature himself on both bone and trumpet.
Right.
The published version that I have is published by Sierra Music. Bob Curnow, who's a trombonist and was a musical director for Stan Kenton, and then he's been involved in music education, music publishing for a long time. When he published it, he wanted to be able to make it for normal mortals to be able to attack it. So he separated. He put the trombone solo in the trombone section, and put the trumpet solo in the trumpet section. But when I perform it, I try to replicate how Maynard did it.
Yeah, because you did both.
So I basically jacked the trombone solo from this from the section and the trumpet solo from the trumpet. But yeah, it's a fun thing. And I that particular chart I haven't had an opportunity to perform in, oh my gosh. Man, the last time I think I performed that was when I was in the Navy band in Annapolis, Maryland, which would have been like, 2010 maybe, 2011. So it's been a minute.
You know what was cool? I could tell you're stuck because you just sat there, you passed out all these original charts, and you're like, hey, pass them back. If you don't, I'm going to find you. And then you're like... And then you didn't even read. You just sat there and you had like both your trombone and then your trumpet on the stands, and then this guy's over here just sitting there directing, just reading with his eyes shut. I was like, oh yeah, this is killing.
Well, I've been playing. I've played it enough that I don't need the the chart. Plus, in all honesty, I mean I suck at reading bass clef anyways.
Yeah. Because of trumpet, I see you're saying.
Yeah, I'm really slow. There's no way I'm going to be able to. I have to just basically when I was with the Tower Power Horn section, we used to do sessions for other artists and stuff.
Of course, yeah.
And if they were hiring an outside arranger, I would always make sure that the arranger knew, look, write the if you want trombone, and that it'll definitely fatten up the sound and help give the Tower Power that horn section, that classic sound from the 70s. but you're going to need to write the trombone part like a tenor sax part. It's got to be in B flat. It's got to be in treble clef. You know, that's the only way it's going to get. Otherwise, I'll sit there and, you know, we'll waste like an hour of studio time while Mike pulls out his manuscript paper and transposes the entire thing.
Man, I was doing, when I was getting my master's, I ended up playing bass in the big band for a semester. And I could read bass clef, but I'm a guitar player, so I don't read that well. So over this span of a semester, my bass clef chops got a little better. But I was just like, at the beginning, I was just like, it was like reading a foreign language. Because I'm so used to like reading in treble that I just subconsciously, I just would read in treble. And now I do the opposite. Well, now sometimes I'll read, not as much
reading in treble clef and you'll slip into...
I'll start reading in bass clef. And I'm just like, oh, God. But yeah, it's just, so I can see how that would be.
It is. It's like learning a new language. So anyhow, yeah, I pretty much have that memorized.
Nice.
And same thing with all the trombone parts that I used to play with Tower Power, all that stuff. Well, none of the trombone parts actually were ever written out anyways.
Okay.
The original arranger for Tower Power, Greg Adams, all the classic stuff. The original lead trumpet player, Mick Gillette, who played a lot of trombone on the band, he basically just would come up with the parts himself, or Greg would say, "Hey man, why don't you do this?" So none of that stuff was ever written down.
So how did you guys learn it and like remember it? He just would like say it to you, and then you guys would just learn it and then just review it, just keep it? Like,
well, okay, when I joined the band, they hadn't had a trumpet player who doubled on trombone since Mick had, since the original guy had left. Okay. Which was like, at that point, it was like 17 years. Oh. So I was the first lead trumpet player that really had the capacity to be able to do what Mick was doing. Okay. So basically, what it boiled down to was whenever we were up in the Bay Area, Mick would come out to shows, and I developed a really close friendship / mentorship relationship with Mick. Okay. And I would just ask him, I'd be like, "Hey man, you know, what were you doing on this?" And he would show me. He would show me, all right, this is what I would do. Because he would always come out and sit in, and he'd always bring his bone. Okay. And his trumpet. And, but, you know, even before that, I was able to develop that relationship with Mick. Basically what I did, because, you know, this is like, I joined the band in 2000, so this, you know, the internet wasn't really, there wasn't a lot of stuff. I had, you know, cassettes, VHS cassettes that you know, of recordings of the band. Okay. And I would just watch really carefully, and I would watch what Mick was. Okay, so he's doubling. He grabs his bone here, especially because the live stuff, the live show. You know, in the studio recordings, he pretty much doubled it. He played bone on just about everything. Okay. But live, you know, because he was playing lead trumpet, he had to kind of pick and choose his moments. Right. So it was just kind of figuring out, okay, here he's putting the trumpet down, he's picking up the bone here. All right, what's he doing? You know, listening real close, or watching his slide positions and trying to figure out what he's doing. Yeah. Yeah. So it was a little bit of some musical archaeology. Yeah. To kind of resurrect the trombone parts.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But see, that kind of goes back to what we were saying. It's like nowadays, some of those kinds of things are so easily accessible, where like, which is great. You can go on YouTube and find, you know, and it's amazing. But also, there's also like that thirst for trying to like find that stuff and figure, you know, watching, you know, that clip. Wait, what is it? And it's just like, it's just there's two different ways of doing it. I feel like nowadays I try and make sure I do both. You know what I mean? Where it's like I try not to be too modern, and then at the same time, it's like, you know, it's still, you got to go back, and the real books aren't always right, and you should listen to 3 different versions and 3 different keys and 3 different bands, and then by the last, you know, that third song, in that you're gonna probably know the song, like, right, you know what I mean? right. So it's like, and I try, you know, so it's trying to do it like that, but then also you can find that rare video just by, oh, hang on, yeah, you never seen the rare Sarah Vaughan video? Oh yeah, it's right here. And then you just pull it up, and it's like, what the hell? Like, wow. So
yeah, we are blessed, and we are lucky that we have so much at our available at our fingertips.
I mean, it gives insight into, like, I mean, just like what we're doing right now. It's like this would have, you know, now we're recording this that maybe you wouldn't really be able to get to hear unless, you know, I got to sit down and meet you and chat with you, you know. Right. So in that sense, it's like really cool to be able to like show people stuff. But I don't know, it's just a different era, you know. It's just,
it is.
It's cool though. But so
I think the key for I'm sorry.
No, go for it. No.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think the key for students, especially coming out of this period where, you know, most of the teaching that's been done has been through a computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key is to be, you know, to, well, as soon as it's safe, you know, to be able to transition back into as much personal, person-to-person type teaching.
Like jam session type kind of thing.
Jam sessions, yeah.
Mentorship.
I was recently hit up, so I posted, not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video where I took one of the tunes from the Tower of Power playlist that both Mick Gillette and myself used to play a lot of on. It's the funk classic Soul Vaccination. You probably know it. And basically what I did is I recorded myself doing it how I used to do it live with the trombone and the trumpet. And then the guy who's the current or a musical arranger who does the horn arrangements for the band, his name is David Eskridge, was kind enough to basically make kind of a hybrid part that, you know, if it was notated, here's what it would look like.
Right.
And so we have it kind of scrolling down underneath.
Oh,
it's really
cool.
And I'm gonna try to talk to somebody about seeing if we can make the music, the sheet music, available. But
and you said it's a video. You made a video.
I made a video.
Where is it at?
It's on my YouTube.
On your
channel.
YouTube. And what is that? Just how do I find it?
Iron Mike Bogart.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right.
And I also posted on my Facebook.
Perfect.
So if, you know,
I'll put links and stuff.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So once I post
Thank
this,
you.
you'll see. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what it's about.
But you know, after I posted it, I got hit up by a few trumpet players and like, hey, you know, would you do some? You know, could you do a Zoom lesson? You know, be interested in studying with you. And I was doing that, you know, for a while, even before the pandemic.
Yeah.
But you know, I've been thinking about this so much. I actually, you know, I messaged them back. I was like, look, I don't think I want to do Zoom lessons anymore. You know, I don't think I want to do anything via the internet. You know, if you're really interested and you really want to study, you know, with me, I would love to be able to show you what I'm doing, but I you know, I want to do it in person. And you know, and I laid out kind of the reasons why, which I already was talking about, how you know, I have this idea that there just isn't the way, you know, you can't impart especially the stuff that I've been given by Maynard Ferguson, by Bobby Shue, by Mick Gillette, all that beautiful stuff that I've absorbed and been given. I don't feel like it does it justice to try to transmit that knowledge through the internet or through a computer.
It's definitely harder.
Yeah,
that's for sure. It's definitely harder.
So yeah, I'm not going to do any more internet teaching. So, but you know, that's kind of a whole nother thing, because I am really, really into teaching.
Yeah,
and I'm really into music education.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's definitely something, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Okay, well, so what if I'm not going to do that? What does it mean? You know, and if I can kind of talk about this for a few minutes, because
Go for it.
Okay. So I have this idea for eventually. What I'm envisioning is like a space that, you know, has like a performance studio. But then also like a meditation room, and then a gym, and a kitchen,
and a sauna.
No, I'm serious. No, you're absolutely right.
I miss going to the sauna.
You know, because I mean, there's something to be said. You know, the indigenous cultures, especially in North America, have had sweat lodges, and there's definitely something spiritually happening in that process.
And they've proved it. Like there's like papers on like it's good for you.
Yeah,
like it's good for your heart. It's good for.
I believe it 100%.
Yeah, and like you're saying, it's like there's something to it. And even especially, I was doing some research on just the whole COVID thing and why saunas might be beneficial, because you know, when you get a fever, your body gets hot. It's trying to kill off the bad stuff. Right. And your body releases like these shock proteins, heat shock, something, I don't know what it is, but it's apparently it's good for you. And they've shown that like if you go in the sauna, you know, every week or whatever, a regular thing, like it's drastically better. Like they've shown it's like 70% decrease in heart attack or in heart something, and it's like crazy. Like they've actually quantified it.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
And for me, it's like, you know, from playing guitars, it's like I have something from like my arm hurts, you know, from whatever, and just when I would go to the sauna, like after working out especially, it was just like, oh my god, it made it like loose and just like, oh, I felt so much better.
Yeah.
So it's like it's good for inflammation and stuff. So
Absolutely.
Anyways.
Yeah, and it's been part of my workout routine.
Nice. So you want to make this.
So I have this. Yeah. So this idea I have is like, if somebody's really interested in learning how to do what it is that I do.
Like come do it like the way you do it.
Because what I realize is that nothing that I do, my trumpet playing is just as dependent on my meditation practice, which is just as dependent on what I put in my body and feed it, and when I feed it, because I've been practicing intermittent fasting for years, and it's also just as dependent on what I do in the gym.
Right.
It's all connected.
It's all
Nothing
one.
is separate.
Right.
You know, I can't separate, okay, here's what I do on trumpet, I can show you this, you know, but however, it's not going to work because you don't have a meditation practice. So what I envision is having a group of students come and stay with me, right, for like maybe like I'd say a minimum of 3 days, but preferably like a week, right? And so we wake up in the morning, you know, and I know most brass players probably don't have a regular fitness routine.
Okay.
I'm qualified. I went to the Navy, sent me to school. I'm a command fitness leader. So, I can put together, you know, it's basically the military equivalent of, personal
like PT
training, personal training certification. Right.
Okay.
So I have that. I can show you. I can build a easy routine for you that you can take home with you. But we'll start practicing it here. I'll show you what exercises you need to do. Then we'll come back. If you've never meditated before, I'll show you what my meditation practice is. I've been to.
Oh, dude, I love it. I'm hooked already.
I attended a Vipassana 10-day silent retreat where we meditated. We meditated 10 hours a day.
Oh, you got to talk about that after this.
Well, I only made it 3 days because it was too soon after I had spinal surgery, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
So, but you know what? In those 3 days, that's like 30 hours of meditation.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, yeah. And so, you know, I'll show you, you know, what the meditation practice is and how to do that. And then we'll go in the kitchen and I'll show you, you know, how I cook and what I eat. And
I love it. I'm already in. I'm coming. I'm already there. I'm signing up. Just tell me where to sign.
Beautiful. You know, and it doesn't have to necessarily be brass players.
No,
you know,
I don't even care.
You know, a bunch of musicians together and just like have a jam session afterwards. And if the trumpet players want to ask me, hey man, how do you play high notes? I'll show you. Okay, all right, now I can show you how I play high notes. Right. Because now that you've kind of got this meditation thing going, you can understand how when I'm doing the yoga breath that you know comes directly from Maynard, why that works. You know, but yeah, absolutely, other instrumentalists would. I think it's great. Would benefit from.
I mean, honestly, because at the end of the day, it's like when you go play your gigs and live your life, like that's part of it. Like that's what you do. Like that's who, you know. It's not just I just play music. It's like that's your whole part. You know, it's all of you. You know, that's so I mean that quite literally is how you do it. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So I think it's great. I think that's awesome.
There was I think it's I can't forget because I'm also Jewish, and so I've studied a lot of Jewish traditions and Jewish, and you know, I read Hebrew, and I do, you know, that's also part of my spiritual practice. So but I also have been practicing, you know, Buddhism for a while. I'm Buddhist meditation. I've read a lot of, you know, books by, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh, and so sometimes I get like Buddhist stories and Hasidic Orthodox Jewish stories kind of mixed up.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if this, but there's a very wise saying that if you want to learn what the master is doing, you have to watch how he ties his shoes.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my God, because it's such a great proverb or whatever you want to call it.
You know, because it's in the details, man. I
love it.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun? I just love how you could just paraphrase so much in such a small statement like that.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Like it's... What? How he ties his shit? What are you talking about? Like, no, come on, man. Like, yeah, I love it.
Right.
I think that's great. I'm gonna steal that. That's a good one.
Please.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I love how you're kind of mixing them up. You don't know which one's which. It makes it even better. That's cool, man.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter because what I've learned is my spiritual practice is kind of a hybrid spiritual practice, but you know, it all leads to the same.
Yeah,
source.
I think it's great. I think that's cool.
Source,
yeah. they all say the same stuff ultimately, so it's great.
Yeah.
But what maybe you could tell? I'm just interested. I'm curious. What is this meditation or 10-day where you don't spit? What? Tell me about it. I'm just curious.
Okay, so I was first heard about it. So I had been practicing basically a Zen meditation practice, which was introduced to the West pretty much by a Vietnamese monk named Thich Nhat Hanh, and he published a beautiful, very short little book called The Miracle of Mindfulness back in probably the 70s.
Well, I think I've heard of this book.
Oh, it's been, like published in just about every language.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so somebody turned me on to this book, and I'd lived in Japan. I'd lived in Japan for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So I was sort of, familiar with a little bit of the basics, but the whole Zen school is basically this mindfulness practice. Basically comes down to trying to keep your mind focused on your breath. Okay. And the way Thich Nhat Hanh talks about getting started with this in the book is, and it sounds very simple, but again, like most things,
of course,
it's much more difficult to do at first, is just sitting quietly and basically closing your eyes and counting your breaths from 1 to 10 and not lose count.
Okay.
And if you make it to 10 and not do anything weird with your breathing, just breathe normally through your nose. And if you make it to 10, then start over again. And, of course, the first time I tried it, I was like, oh, this is a piece of cake. I got to probably 4 or 5. It was like Clark study number 1, da 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 da. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be thinking about that.
I see.
Wow, that girl I saw on the beach earlier today.
Right.
Yeah, I put that in
your mind's
yeah.
wandering.
Wait a minute, no, I'm not supposed to think about that. I'm supposed to be thinking about, wait, what number was I on? And you learn real quick what the Buddhists call the monkey mind, which is the human mind has a tendency to want to wander,
right?
But that's okay. And what you learn is to compassionately accept that, okay, I'm thinking about this now. Try to let that thought go. Try to let it pass, and then redirect back to, okay, 1.
And is that part of being like mindful of that? Is that the whole thing? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then taking that practice, and Thich Nhat Hanh talks about this in the book, taking that practice and putting it into everyday, like for instance, he talks about eating an orange.
Okay.
Right? I think it's an orange. And how most people, when they're eating an orange, they put the slice in their mouth, and they're probably thinking about the dishes that need to be done, or they're thinking about a paper that needs to be finished, or a report that needs to be submitted. They're not really eating the orange. They're eating the report.
I see what you're saying.
They're eating the dishes. So, taking that mind, and when you do something, really focus, okay, I'm eating an orange. Really try to taste it.
I see what you're saying.
Putting that practice into everything that you do.
Interesting.
And if you set a specific time period, like for instance, a meditation practice, where okay, I'm just going to focus on my breath for this period of time, you'd be surprised how much easier it is to try to let that bleed through into everything else, and especially how important it is.
And then once it goes to music, of course. I mean, if you could sit there and be mindful and in the moment, like you're saying, like that, I love it. I'm coming to your camp, dude. I'm coming to your camp, bro.
Awesome.
Sign me up. Because that makes so much sense now. Like, if you're... And I feel like everyone has probably their own method of what you're describing, especially successful musicians that, or any... It doesn't even have to be musicians. It could be in any field. There's an art to everything. But I can see how, like, I mean, that approach, if you're doing that, in this part of your life, and then you come to the trumpet, it's like, yeah, of course that's going to carry over. I mean, in some level. Yeah. So, like, if you're trying to teach, if I'm asking Mike, okay, well, how do, that's part of it. Yeah. I get it. That makes sense. I get it. Yep. Yeah. I love it.
But going back to the Vipassana thing, so basically it's an organization. They do this for free.
Okay.
And they just ask for a donation at the end. And what it is you go and when you get there, you turn in all your electronics, your wallet, your car keys, everything gets turned in, and you take basically it's a vow of silence for the next it's actually 9 days, because on the 10th day they allow you to talk, but it's 9 days you're not supposed to say a word, and then the practice is you meditate for 10 hours a day in I think it's like 3 or 4 shifts, but it's a lot of time on the cushion, And I was introduced to it by a former girlfriend who has done it twice now.
Wow.
And I was able, I actually dated her right before she did the second one, and then after she came out of the second one. So I was able to see, you know, I also have a background in mental health.
Okay.
I was certified as a substance abuse counselor by the Navy.
Oh.
And I worked as a mental health care provider for a while.
Okay.
And I was able to see the difference. It was like, I told her it was like watching somebody go through like 2 years of intensive therapy, but doing it in 10 days of meditation, you know? So I was like sold on it instantly. I was like, yeah, I got to go do this, because I could see it's like life-changing. It's really heavy. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't right, because, you know, it's they do it like, you got to sign up really quick when they open up the spots, because they fill up very fast.
Okay.
There's only, you know, certain centers scattered around the globe. There was one in Illinois where I was living at the time. I was in Chicago. And so I signed up. I was able to get in, but it was, I think it was like less than 6 months after I'd had spinal surgery.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I was going to be able to hang.
There. Oh.
And I even at one point, like on the second day, I asked for a chair, and they brought a chair out. But by that point, you know, it was physically too uncomfortable for me. But I was still able to get in 3 days of it. And, you know, that's 30 hours of time spent just focusing. And the way that it's taught in Vipassana is they don't do any counting. It's really just like the bare bones basic. What you do is you start by just focusing on what the sensation is of the breath going into your nostril. That's all you're supposed to focus on for the first 3 days.
Wow.
Is just that.
Okay.
And you'd be surprised how intense it can get when all of a sudden, like that sensation of the breath coming in and out of your nostril is like, you're almost like your entire existence.
Your whole world,
because it does get to a point where all those extraneous thoughts and everything,
wow.
And it's like all of a sudden everything is clear, and it's just the breath, and it's amazing.
Okay.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, okay. I can imagine. I'm trying to. Okay, yeah. I see.
It's hard to put it into words.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, of course. I could, yeah. That's great.
I've made it about it. I was actually signed up to do it again when I was living in London, and literally a month before I was supposed to go, because it was going to be during spring break from my classes at the Royal Academy of Music, the pandemic hit and shut it down, and it got canceled. But I will do it. I will go back and finish the 10 days.
Well, we'll have to meet up after, and you'll have to tell me. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what? You lived in London then? So
I did.
When and how long? And you're there studying music? Because that's what you were saying earlier. Okay.
Yep. I still am.
Right.
I'm still enrolled.
Of course.
Yeah. So I'm a graduate student, or over there they call it postgraduate, but here it's graduate level. So basically master's.
I see, but there they say postgrad.
There they
say
postgrad, but it's the same thing.
I get you.
In jazz studies at the Royal Academy of Music in London.
Wow. What's
how
that like?
happened? It's amazing.
Yeah. So how did that happen? I mean,
well, so I was on Tower Power for 9 years.
Okay.
Recorded, I think, 3 studio albums, 2 live albums, and then so I'd had 10 years with the Navy before, and I didn't burn any bridges with the Navy. I kind of kept some close ties, and I would actually do some like recruiting a little bit for the Navy music program.
Okay.
Whenever the Tower Horns would go out and do clinics with high school or college students. You know, if I met a promising student who, you know, didn't feel like they wanted to go to school for a while, and they wanted to, I would say, hey, you know, you might want to think about joining one of the military bands, because it's a great opportunity to earn a steady paycheck playing your instrument, and you can also earn your benefits to be able to go back to school, and you'll have your school paid for.
Yeah. So
I'd been on Tower for 9 years, and I found out about an opening, and so the militaries, they basically have 2 tiers of bands. They have fleet bands or field bands, and then they have the premier bands ensembles that are mostly in the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
So they do a lot of the presidential functions, support for that. So the auditioning process for that tier bands is considerably higher.
Yeah.
But because of that, you get brought in at a higher pay grade level. So basically,
it's like the top tier.
Yeah, exactly.
I get you.
So I had this 10 years already logged in, and then I found out about this opening in the Naval Academy Band in Annapolis, Maryland, which is at that higher tier.
Okay.
And I called them up, and they offered me the gig because it was the trumpet player in their top 40 band.
Right.
And coming into that gig, then it would give me the rank that I needed to be able to stay in and finish out 20 years. And I only had to do another 10 years. Because you have to be that rank to be able to stay in for 20. Otherwise, they won't allow you.
Oh.
Because the rank that I had when I got out of the Navy, I wouldn't have been able to stay in.
Oh,
anyways.
okay. I'm not hip to the whole how that works.
It's like a weird ranking structure. But
okay.
Anyhow, bottom line is I was able to come in. I could finish out 10 years.
Cool.
Retire with a pension, which I have. I also, I'd mentioned the spinal surgery that I did a lot of damage to my body. So I ended up with a nice little, check every month from the Veterans Administration for, damages that were incurred during service. So I have that. And then I also had like all this money to go back to school, like basically $49,000
from serving to go and be able to use it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, this woman that I was dating at the time, at that point I was thinking, I want to go back to school. I never finished my undergrad. I started one at the University of Miami. Okay. Many years before, but I never finished it.
To go back now as like a professional.
Yeah,
it's kind of that's cool. Like, I just think that would be nice. You really understand.
Yeah, and but at that point I was thinking, I'll just stay here. I'll audition. I'll try to get into like the Illinois State University or Indiana maybe something. Okay. A little more regional. And she was actually really cool. She was like, no, you need to think broader, bigger, given what you've already done. Mm-hmm. So I put out a little thing on Facebook. I say, hey, if I was going to go study jazz anywhere in the world, where would be literally within 48 hours, gentleman by the name of Nick Smart, who's the head of the jazz program department at the Royal Academy of Music, contacted me on Facebook. He was like,
I love it.
I don't know if you
remember.
love
that we're talking shit on the internet, and now you just got someone telling you.
I know, right? Yeah, that happened because of the internet. And he was like, look, I saw you. So the first time I ever went to London was with the Maynard Ferguson big band.
Oh, and we
did 2 weeks at Ronnie Scott's famous jazz club.
Okay,
he was there and he saw me perform, and then he kind of followed my career.
See, it's a combination of both of those.
It's a combination of both.
I love it. Yeah,
exactly. So anyhow, he hit me up. He goes, I know who you are. He says, based on your professional experience and based on our academic standing, because they're like the Juilliard of that side of the pond. Okay. He says, we can waive your undergrad requirements. If you want, you come over here for a couple of years, study with us. You'll have a master's degree in jazz study. I was like, done.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Sign me up. So I did. So I retired from the Navy in August of 2019. By September, I was living in London, starting school.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And how was the experience there? Was it cool?
The first year, it was amazing. Yeah. I mean, we had...
I mean, I don't know
what that school has such an amazing curriculum, and they bring in, because of Nick and Pete Churchill, the faculty that they have there, and Nikki Isles, who's the jazz piano. I mean, the faculty is amazing, but they have the beautiful relationships with some incredible music. So they're bringing in like amazing artists to come in and work with us. Mm-hmm. They hosted like a whole ECM week where we had all these incredible, like David Holland comes and like hangs out with us for like a whole week, and like I'm standing on stage playing blues with David Holland. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm, So talk about like the immersion.
Of course, which is what we were saying. Yeah, I love it. That's great.
So it was unbelievable, the experience the first year.
What's the jazz scene like there?
In London?
Yeah, like I've never even thought about that.
It's huge. I mean, it's really, really. You can find just about every facet of jazz imaginable being performed. Well, pre-pandemic,
of course,
being performed live in London.
Okay,
and all sorts of different permutations thereof. I mean, there's some really, really cutting edge stuff happening musically in London.
Nice,
and it has been for a little while.
Okay,
but I think especially like for the few years prior to the pandemic, there was really some cutting edge, like whole new level stuff starting to happen in London.
Okay.
And a lot of it, I think, is because of I think the Royal Academy of Music has a lot to do with how, because they're kind of feeding that into the London
Of course.
scene.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing. Getting out, going out, and hearing groups, and there's a lot of really great venues.
Right.
To be able to perform live jazz in London, and a big support for it from not just from musicians, but from people. I mean, typically shows get sold out. They just do.
So
and not just at Ronnie Scott's, but at smaller
all the
clubs
other
like
spots.
Vortex or 606. I mean, there's all these, even smaller venues that just get, sold out like that.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, it is. It's really
And
cool.
you're just going to, so you were saying that because of the pandemic, but now you're going to finish it.
Yep.
And then, I mean, too bad you can't go back though, huh?
I will at some point.
Oh, you are?
I definitely will. At least to visit and maybe, but in terms of finishing the degree, that's going to happen.
Oh, great. My camera died.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think I unplugged it. It's all right. We're going to be back. There it is. All right, let me see here. Oh, damn it. Hang on.
Yeah, no worries, man.
I messed. I should have touched it. I was like, oh, it's going to get unplugged. And then I unplugged it. There it is. All right, we're back.
Cool.
So, man, that's cool.
Yeah. And I'm and again, I think, it's because of the pandemic that it's possible for me to be able to finish remotely because,
right.
none of that platform. And again, the school and the faculty, when this came down and London shut down completely, they were like, oh man, they pretty much had to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But they did.
That's kind of the situation with a lot of people, I guess, really.
Yeah.
In all sectors in some sense, but well, that's great, man. That sounds, I never even really thought about like the London jazz scene, or I didn't even know. Yeah, I don't know. You're just kind of shedding light on something I never really thought about.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's a cool scene,
man.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, because I'm such a Hendrix fan, when I think of London and like that, I think Hendrix, and he's over there, like starting his career, and then he comes. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's just me because I'm a Hendrix head. But
no, I get it. I mean, they've always been very, very open and receptive to, especially having American jazz artists come there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they really respect that. That this is the country that gave birth to that art form. And so even artists that are homegrown English artists like legendary artists like, for instance, Kenny Wheeler, a trumpet player, composer,
yeah, of course,
who is so cutting edge.
That guy's legendary.
Yeah, but even he, they would always, they have a different sense of history, I think, than Americans do. We have a very short attention span, a very short sense of history, whereas they're able to sort of just, I think, because they've, of where they are and who they are and everything, they're able to connect dots much easier. So, they always know, okay, where the roots of the music come from. Yeah. And are very, very respectful of that.
So what was it like playing in the military? I don't know. I didn't do, like, when I see you and Matt and Charlie, and it's just like, what is it like to do that?
I'm very grateful for the ability to be able to have a job in the military where pretty much all I had to do was just play trumpet. For the exception of a couple of years when I went into mental health care and I did that. Okay. 18 of my 20 years was spent just playing trumpet. Okay.
And you're playing shows, you're doing events, how does that work?
I mean, it kind of depends from band to band where you are.
Okay.
But obviously because it's the military, there's a lot of ceremonial stuff that takes place.
That's what I was I figured.
Yeah. Unless you're in, like, one of the one of the 18-piece big bands that are in the DC area, like the Airmen and Note, or
I've heard of that.
Jazz Ambassadors, or if you're in one of those groups, you're pretty much only going to play big band. I mean, they will, during inauguration, of course, they're going to have to march on Pennsylvania Avenue, just like all the other military musicians. But for the most part, that's your job.
Okay.
But at the fleet level or at the field level, which is the first 10 years that I spent, and also at the band at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, pretty much just ceremonial stuff. So, a lot of marches, a lot of marching. And, I mean, it's not, for somebody who's like a creative artist and has it, it's not necessarily the best environment to foster that.
Okay.
But however, the payoff is, I'm pretty much, set financially for life. I don't
and now you can be creative.
I don't have that stress that a lot of musicians, especially right now because of the pandemic.
For sure.
And I feel so blessed and so grateful that I was able to go in and finish my time in the military and do that, because now I'm and for a lot of musicians who are serving right now and still in uniform, it's the steadiest, regardless of whether you're going and you're playing a John Philip Sousa march and maybe you got like one parade in the month, or maybe you're actually on tour with the Airmen and Note and you're playing, it's a grueling tour schedule where you're playing a show every night. Regardless of what your playing requirements are, you're guaranteed a paycheck on the 1st and the 15th of every single month. If you get sick, you walk into a Navy hospital or a military, healthcare facility, you're not going to pay a cent. I had spinal surgery that was probably close to worth between $200,000 and $300,000. Didn't pay a cent.
Wow.
Completely free. So there's a trade-off, though.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
I get you.
Yeah,
okay.
And for a lot of musicians, it's not the right. The trade-off isn't worth it, and I totally get it. A lot of musicians get in, they do one tour, they just decide, this just isn't, creatively, it's just not my bag, and man, God bless you, and
Yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah,
yeah, I get you. But that's cool. It seems like now you have the ability to. I mean, you can almost sit down and be as creative as you want now.
I do. I can.
Which is that's kind of huge. Enticing.
It's a beautiful,
especially right now with like what you're saying. Well, I don't, most people have to worry about this and this and this. Well, but now I get to just focus. I can meditate all day if I want, or
yeah.
I
can go to the gym twice a day if I feel like it, which I do.
That's cool.
Sometimes.
That's cool, man.
Yeah,
that's great.
And and just focus on. I've been doing because the degree requirements at the Royal Academy of Music, it's not just a performance degree, but it's also you could also consider it like a arranging and composition degree as well. They roll in a lot of arranging and composition, and Pete Churchill, who's the head of the he is the arranging and composition department, is just encyclopedic in his knowledge of what he passes on. So I've been doing a lot of writing.
Nice.
So I have a lot of really cool ideas and cool stuff, and that I can't wait to hear other musicians play.
And this is this like what is it, like big band stuff? Is it
not big band?
Okay,
it's smaller group stuff, and it's actually the evolution of it has sort of morphed over the last couple of years.
Okay. Like
the stuff that I was writing and hearing in my head when I first got there is very much rooted in like late 1960s Blue Note soul jazz, Cannonball Adderley, Horace Silver, that kind of sound.
Yeah.
And so, some of the stuff that I've written is very much in that vein, Lee Morgan, Sidewinder, that's kind of where.
Yeah, okay.
But
like
lately,
hard bop stuff.
Yeah, hard bop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But lately I've been hearing more like electronic influences, been listening to Bitches Brew a lot, just different, just like more of an electronic, and even like Sly Stone and Electric Miles. I'm trying to think, and even groups like Chicago, I've been really, so some of the stuff that I'm writing now is much more in that vein. Is going to require like electronic instruments.
I see.
think to be able to and so when I eventually record, I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen.
You're not sure yet.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I get you. So, in speaking to the future, you're writing music. You have some ideas for this cool camp style thing, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You got to come up with a cool name for that.
Well, I kind of have the first thing that popped in my head when I was thinking about this was mind, body, spirit.
Okay.
Right? Because those are like the three components.
Yeah.
But then I was practicing along with, so to kind of keep my chops up, I still play along with TOP sets. It's like
what is that?
A Tower of Power.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I'll put on a Tower of Power album,
TOP?
and I'll play like 30 minutes of TOP.
Sick. So you just sit there and play along again.
Yeah, I just play along because it's great because I don't have any music in front of me. It's all still internalized, and I don't have to think. And it's like an automatic process. And I actually really needed to sort of do this because I was sort of struggling physically for a while there too.
Okay.
After I had spinal surgery, it was a disc in my neck. And they had to remove it. I had a discectomy and a fusion. But the way that they pull the disc out from the neck is they actually go through the front. So basically, they decapitate you. So I basically had my
neck. Look at my face right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they cut through all the tissue, and then they move your larynx to one side.
Oh my God.
And then they pull the disc out. Yeah. So coming out of that, it changed like everything physically. And I was struggling especially when I first got to London. I mean, physically, I was really struggling to play the trumpet, and had been for a couple of years. And what did it was I remembered I read this story and I heard about this story. There was a really famous classical orchestral trumpet player who kind of redefined what the orchestral trumpet sound was. His name was Bud Herseth.
Okay.
And he was, for 50 years, was the principal trumpet for the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Okay. Which had the most ballsiest brass section in the history of orchestral. So in the 60s, he was driving from his home in the northern suburbs of Chicago down to Orchestra Hall, and he hit a patch of ice, and his car slid out, and he hit his steering wheel, and he put his bottom teeth through his bottom lip. So after the physical part was healed in probably about 6 to 8 weeks, he went down into his basement studio, he pulled the trumpet out, and he couldn't get a note out.
Damn.
Nothing came out of the horn. And this went on for I think a little while, like maybe a couple of days or maybe a week. And finally he put and talk about a Zen moment, right? He took the horn, put it in the case, muscle memory, put the case in the trunk of his car, drove down to Symphony Hall, walked into a rehearsal, sat down, didn't sit down on first. I think he sat down on third or fourth. Sat down, opened up the horn, pulled out the music, pulled the horn out, bah, and just started playing. Huh. And he was surrounded by all those musicians who had been playing for years, surrounded by the trumpet and the brass section and that sound, and it's just everything started.
You just found it.
I just started playing along with Tower of Power recordings, about a year ago, and all of a sudden
you got it's coming back. Like
everything came back.
Wow! So you kind of did what?
Yeah,
wow!
It all came back, and I think that's
so ingrained, and just so you just kind of revisit it. Through that realm,
and the muscles just sort of, without getting all caught up in my head and worried about, everything just sort of, okay, I remember how to do this.
Wow.
Without even really having to think about it. So I forgot how I got started on talking about playing along with the Tower of Power recordings.
Oh, you were just saying that that's how you've been kind of staying in shape. You keep your chops up. You play along with those.
But there was a reason why I was going there.
I was asking you about some of your music, the future, the mind, body, spirit.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Thank you so much.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So mind, body, spirit. So that's what I was thinking about, this whole teaching concept.
Okay.
And I was playing along with Tower of Power recordings, and there's a point where there's a number that they do called "Digging on James Brown," right?
Okay.
And it always starts with Emilio Castillo, the band leader, does this like James Brown introduction. He goes, "Tower of Power," and the band hits, "Bah, Tower of Power.
Sick. Yeah,
Bum.
just super
Tower
like-
of Power is a soul band playing soul music for X number of years this year. And I suddenly realized, wait a minute, no, it's not mind, body, spirit. It's mind, body, soul. Because I play soul.
I love it.
You
Okay.
know? And so, yeah. So that's going to be like, that's like the name of my whole teaching philosophy is mind, body, soul.
That's cool, man. I
And
like it.
And my playing philosophy.
Yeah. Well, and your life philosophy.
And my life philosophy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. I think it's great.
Thanks.
I think that's cool. I feel like too much, a lot of people, we end up simplifying just by trying to teach and by trying to learn. And it's like, oh, well, it's just major scale. It's this and it's this. And it's just what, I think it's cool the way you're approaching it. I feel like it's more, that's where that music comes from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what I think, at least. I mean, as
agree.
far as I can tell, from what I've been studying and listening to, and just, you mean, you go down these rabbit holes, and I mean, I think that's when I had to write this paper for my master's stuff, and we had to do this whole thing, and I was kind of upset that I had to write a paper for my jazz studies performance degree. I'm just like, okay, guys. So anyways, I ended up writing this paper, but I basically wrote it about that, about like basically, I think I titled like the ear versus the pen or something like that. I'll send it to you.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
And it's literally just about like how they teach jazz and how we learn jazz and how we teach it and how we talk about it and how they might have talked about. I wasn't around then, but like how they, as far as I can tell, how they talked about it, how how we talk about it now, how we teach it, how we have to teach it because of certain things, and that makes sense. I get it. You have to quantify it in some way in these school systems and whatever. That's fine. I get it. But at the end of the day, that's probably not how those guys did it. Like just the way that we discuss things, and I don't know. It's all about that and like the history of it, and it was just like a dive into that idea of.
Well, it sounds like you and I are very much on the same page.
Yeah, it's
with
because
regards to that.
Yeah, it's because like you're saying, it's like there's a certain, I don't know, there's a certain philosophy once you start really trying to study this stuff and really see where it comes from. And I mean, historically, where it's come from is different than kind of how we talk about it now. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's exactly what you're saying.
I think the doors have been opening more for discussion about, okay, what was really going on, and to be able to, and I have to give props to Ken Burns, because his documentary really kind of starts really opening the conversation. Okay, if you want to talk about the birth of jazz, you have to talk about slavery.
Oh,
you
without
have to
a
talk
doubt.
about Jim Crow.
Yeah.
You have to talk about, all this.
I'm going to send you this paper. You're going to love it.
Really dark, negative shit that this country was doing.
That
at
America,
that time.
that is America.
Yeah.
Like that's where, and to ignore it is you're not, I mean, what, are we just making stuff up now? Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Let's just make up our own history. Well, yeah.
And it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's part of it, and no one wants to say it. Like, you're not allowed to like say it or something. It's like, yeah, I mean, this music comes from slaves. It came from all these people. It's like what, how are you not going to talk about? Like, what are you guys talking about? What? Yeah. And it's not that they don't. They talk about it. It's just to have it. I feel like you really have to have the full. I mean, I don't have a full understanding. I'm trying to.
I don't either.
But like, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. And and I never will, because I'm a white American, and I come from a very different background. I can't, it's not. I need to do whatever I can to be able to appreciate and understand as much as I can the roots of this music that I'm playing. But I can't talk about it on a personal level, because, I mean,
you could talk about it
I can,
for
you. I can talk about, and I mean, it's not like I have, so, when I have experienced some stuff, when the kids in my junior high school found out I was Jewish, and I was the only Jewish kid in a very, white, small farming community, very, very red state. And, when they found out I was Jewish, I, had swastikas on my locker, and,
wow,
little notes slipped in my locker, and in my books, it was like, died Jew, die kike, we didn't finish the job in Auschwitz,
Jesus,
crap like that. So, but still, the kind of systemic racism that we're talking about that's been going on for 400 years in this country against African Americans, I can't talk about that. I can't address that because that's not my experience. But that is, it's a direct result from that. That's given birth to
one of the greatest,
incredible, that really is America's only true art form.
It really is.
It's the only art form that we can, that the United States of America can claim was created on its soil.
And the way it's created, you know, it's pretty dark, some of it, and it's like, but what comes out of that is like just some of the most beautiful shit ever. That's like, it's amazing. Like once you go down it and you realize like where this comes from, it's like, it's uniquely American.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's like, to not recognize that and to not talk about that stuff is, you're not doing it justice. You're not fully understanding it or giving, you know, credit or blame or whatever you want to call it. Like, you know, I think that's a real thing, you know.
It is a real thing.
And it's like, I think thankfully it seems like more and more people kind of see that, because like we're saying, you know, a lot of that stuff's more tangible than it's ever been. You can find historically where this, you can go search it, you can find video. I mean, it's insane. Like to like be able to really, like I was just watching a interview like we're doing right now with Ron Carter, and Ron Carter's just sitting there talking about some stuff. It's amazing. It's like to be able to sit there and just like, I don't know, it's crazy, man. Modern era is nuts. But yeah, I love the way we're kind of talking about it. I've thought really hard about that stuff. I'll send you that paper. You're gonna love it. Please do. Yeah. I don't think I got it all 100% right, but it was like, I was like, man, if I'm gonna write about something, at least it's got to be about something like that. I'm not gonna go crazy, right? Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So, but I think that's an important thing to address. I feel like you kind of have to. It's like your duty, if you're gonna play that music, to recognize that stuff. If not, it's like, what?
I agree. I
mean, what are we doing? Like,
yep. and respect the circumstances and the tragedy that gave birth. You know, and you know, on a smaller micro, you know, kind of a micro level, you know, it's been my own personal experience that every time I've had to go through some kind of personal tragedy, mm-hmm. it's always led to a period of growth, right? You know, either spiritual growth, mental growth, or you know, or creatively, some kind of growth, and you know, I think that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about, you know, one of the greatest tragedies in the history of humankind, you know, and how, but coming out of that, how it's given birth to this amazingly beautiful art form. Yeah. You know, that can be embraced by everyone.
It's worldwide now,
yeah. Because, you know, everybody can relate at least on some level to, and, you know, especially this, I love, you know, one of the things that I love about jazz is I think it was, you know, and this is just like such a basic idea, but I think it was discussed by, or the first time that I saw it put this way was Wynton Marsalis talking about it on the Ken Burns documentary on jazz.
Oh, okay.
Where he talks about it, you know, it's basically it's spontaneous composition.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The best solos sound like that. They don't sound like a bunch of licks linked together.
Right.
It's a story. It's a composition, and you know. And that's what it is. It's spontaneous, and it also can't, you know, and it's got to be done within this framework where it's a conversation. That's the other thing I love about how whenever Wynton's talking about jazz and talking about, he like, for instance, he was demonstrating something about, you know, the different plunger techniques or the different muting techniques for trumpet players from like the 1920s, right? And whenever he says, and, you know, normally, you know, a musician would say, yeah, and he plays it like this, or he plays this. When Wynton doesn't do that. The word he uses over and over again is, Roy Eldridge saying this.
I was going to say, he says
it like this, you know, and when he talks about like a group of musicians playing jazz, he's talking about it being a conversation, right? You know, and, you know, the most important part of a conversation is not necessarily what you're saying. It's listening to what the other person is saying, so that you can absorb that and contribute to that
Right.
conversation.
Right.
And not be all caught up in your head. Instead of listening to what you're saying, instead of listening to that, I'm actually thinking about, how am I going to respond?
And this
how am I
goes
going to
back-
word this so I sound like the most profound individual on the face of the planet?
It's true.
You know?
You got to be mindful.
Yes.
It goes back. Oh, I'm about to go to Mike's camp, people. You know what? Winton, I feel like he has a special knack for just being able to articulate certain things about music or life or whatever. Like when you hear I just have seen interviews where he's just talking and it's like, man, I could have said it better if I tried. Like, Jesus, like the way and I know exactly what part you're talking about in the Ken Burns thing.
Yeah.
Have you heard his new record? I haven't heard all of it. Well, I guess it's
no.
not really new anymore, but I guess he released it. I can't remember what it's called.
Since during the pandemic?
Yeah.
I have not
think
heard it.
so.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to the whole thing. I needed to listen to it again. I keep forgetting. It's like a whole story though. There's and you can find during the pandemic he's sitting there talking about the new record and just I don't know, I need to listen to it again because I haven't been able to sit down all at once and just because it's like a whole movement kind of thing. But yeah, I gotta remind me we gotta listen to that. But yeah, anyways, Winton, he has a certain way of describing things that's he just gets to the point, or he has a knack for that.
He's I think he's probably the greatest living jazz musician that we have right now in terms of not just his playing, but compositionally, the way he understands it, the way he's able to talk about it and articulate it, his understanding of the history of it, geographically where he's coming from.
Right.
I mean, it's all there. And we're so blessed that we live in a time when he's available. He's available
for sure.
I would agree. And I have an incredible amount of respect. And that being said, for all the amazing legendary jazz musicians that I've been fortunate to have met, and even the few that I've been able to play with and share the bandstand with, I've never had a chance to meet Winton Marsalis.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it will happen, I'm sure. I'm putting that out there in the universe.
Hey, Winton, call this guy, all right? Hey, call me too. Come on the podcast. Let's go, baby. Come on.
That would be that
would be unreal. I would probably be panicking. I don't even know where I would start. Jesus. I don't even know what that's just I would have pure terror going into that. That'd be fun.
That would be, so here's an interesting question. So if you could sit down with Winton Marsalis and you had one question you could ask, or one topic that you wanted to discuss with him, what would it be? I think for me it would be what we were just talking about. I would want to understand from his perspective, talk about all the elements that were in place that gave birth to this art form.
I think that's kind of what I was gonna. It's kind of I was gonna kind of piggyback off of the what we were talking about, like you're saying, of just because it's not like I would ask him oh, what chord do you play on this, or kind of what you're saying, or how do I play a high? What it's like.
Right.
I don't really.
Hey man, what Monette mouthpiece were you playing on this album?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for me it would be more of a conceptual thing of just I mean, what can you say about this music and where it comes from and how we can preserve it and how we can add to it and the modern era and just I don't know, it would just be good to get someone like that, an insight from someone like that mind that's just have traveled from that era to where his era that overlapped, and then now we're into this new era of the modern, whatever you want to call it. It was I mean, I think that's the thing that it's hard to put into words. It's hard to it's this, it's a 2-5-1 going, no one cares. Well, okay, cool, but I think that would be interesting, man. I don't know. And for someone like him, he would just the way he must articulate that, and just I'm sure he's thought about that so hard. I don't know. Who knows? I'm gonna go down a Winton rabbit hole now on YouTube.
Yeah, as I've done many times and spent many hours before. Yeah, there was something that he posted right at the beginning of the pandemic where he was doing a thing for kids, and I think it was through Lincoln Center, but it was done at his pad, and he's sitting down at the piano and he's just talking about You got to check this out. He was just
Okay.
talking about like what is the blues?
Okay.
And he's starting to play.
Oh,
and he's
you're
talking
gonna
about
get me
it.
to start ranting. All right, keep going.
And man, it is some deep.
Okay,
deep
I'm gonna
shit.
find it. I'm gonna find it because
And there's
keep going.
one quote in there that I'm going to pull that
Okay.
has stuck with me. He said, "A good melody is worth 1,000 chord scales."
Okay.
And he that's goes back to, you know, what is
Right.
improvisation? What is beautiful, perfect improvisation? It's composition.
Mm-hmm.
A good melody is worth 1,000 chord scales, or something to that effect.
Okay.
I might be paraphrasing, but you know, basically, you can sit and play through all the chord scales and the Jamie Aebersold,
But the one good melody
you know,
is worth all those.
scale syllabus. But you know, if you can come up with a beautiful melody that maybe hits those target notes, but
Right.
is an actual melody, man, that's what he
Right.
is like the master of that.
Yeah,
And,
for
you know,
sure.
He's taken that tradition and just like,
Yeah.
so yeah, you got to check that out, man. It's deep.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna have to find that one. I just posted a video on YouTube. I want to get your thoughts on this real quick. But I was thinking about just like the blues a lot and just music and harmony and like just major scales and just chords, and why does this sound so good? And why is it that when you play these things in a certain way, it just speaks, you know what I mean? And that, like, getting even away from like getting nerdy and it's like, oh, it's the 2 chord in this, it's major this, it's whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, that's cool and all, but like if you just play it, we all know it sounds nice. And it's like, you can call it whatever you want, that's cool. But and then I started thinking like, well, like, why is it major? Like, why not? Why can't it be minor? Or why is it based off of major? Or like, it's just like, why is it this? And then I was like thinking about the Harmonic Series a bunch, and like I was doing some nerdy stuff on guitar where I like had mapped out the harmonics. And I was getting really nerdy. And then it was like, that was a while ago, and then I just kind of started thinking about it the other day, and then it just kind of hit me where I started thinking about, because I've always wondered, like, why does it sound so good to play, like, you know, flat 7 or flat 3 or the, you know, bluesy stuff, you know, quote unquote,
Right.
over, let's just say, one chord, just one major triad, just a major chord. And like for guitar, that's why I play guitar, because I just love the blues. Like, that's why I love Hendrix. That's why I found, like, that, I just love that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, you start thinking about, well, what are they doing? Well, he's just playing, and you know, it's just E major, and we're just playing, and they're just playing in a key. And it's like, but why does the flat 7 sound so good? Why can you speak so well with it? And like, why am I able to play, like, you know, minor 3, 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, and it just sounds so good, and just like, you can do all these, like, why does that sound? I don't understand. Like, I know that where to target it, and I know how it lays harmonically over things, and I get it. Like, I get it.
But why specifically when these notes are played?
There's
why
something
does it
about
evoke an emotional response.
It's undeniable.
It has to do,
and then it hit me all of a sudden. The Harmonic Series has, you know, a certain series of notes: 1 octave, 5 octave, and then it's like, you know, 1 3 5
flat 7,
flat 7,
octave
8,
2,
1 2
3 sharp 4,
sharp 4. So I'm like, I mean, we all know that, right?
Yeah.
But like, I started thinking about it. I'm like, I've always wondered, why is it flat 7? Like, why you think it would be major 7, right? Because we play in major, but it's not. It's flat 7.
Right.
Why is it sharp 4 way up there? What the hell?
Yeah.
It's the blues, man. It's just, think about it. It's like every note, just one note, has a harmonic series, correct?
Yeah.
You play one note, and that's the natural. It's mathematical, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Right.
But inside that one note, you have what? You have the triad. You have major. You have the major scale. 1 3 5 2 4 6. It's that whole. It's the whole harmony. Like, that's how. I think that's why harmony sounds good to us in triads like that.
Sure.
You can extrapolate to 7 chords, whatever, yada yada.
Yeah.
But the basis of it is, you know, major 1, minor 2, minor 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, so on. That sounds great. And like, you play random notes, it's random, and then the minute you play 1 2 3 4 5, it's like magic. It's like, what? All of a sudden, you just made this organization that's undeniable. You don't even, whatever you want to name it, whatever, it's major scale, whatever you want to call it. it's undeniable that you could do that for someone that knows nothing about music, and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Like, wow, well, you know, those chords go up,
right?
And then you play, you know, you just do a blues lick. Like if I had my guitar right here, you know, whatever, just whatever. You just and you play this bluesy lick. It just speaks. It sounds good, and it just hit me. It's like, I mean, flat 7 1. It's like that's in the harmonic series. You know, it's just like it's just blues is like in the harmonic series.
And the same thing with the sharp four, the flat 5.
The flat 5 is up. It's up top. It's just like like there, and it's like, I don't know, just kind of hit the, you know, the flat 3 is not really there. It kind of is once you get really high up, but it starts getting really hard to hear. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'd have to go back and nerd out on it again, but. It's interesting, like, you know, you just throw that flat 3 in, and then with the 3, and then you use all the other harmonics that are there, and all of a sudden you just have a blues.
Right.
It sounds blue. It's like, and then it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like,
and you know what else is really, really interesting now that it just came to my head. I just thought of this is, you know, you go back and you know, and I hope I'm not talking out my butt here historically, but you go back and you look at like the history of like, you know, figured bass and 4-part, you know, harmony, you know, the rules that were in place that were put in place by the church.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and like some of the rules, like you can't have parallel fifths.
Right.
And of course, the tritone, which is the, you know,
the devil,
sharp 4, the flatted 5th.
Yeah.
Completely verboten. You can't have that because that's the devil's.
Yeah.
And then also with the flat 7, right? And it wasn't until I think the late Romanticism, and again, I'm probably embarrassing myself right now with my knowledge of classical musical history, but I don't think it was until the late Romantic period, you know, like Beethoven started using flat 7s.
Right. It started getting more and more.
That it started becoming acceptable. But up until that point, I believe the flat 7 was also outlawed by the church. Same thing with the sharp 4, the flat 5, you know, and. You know, it's interesting how, you know, spiritually that stuff was, you know, it was like you were not allowed to write that. You could not perform that. You could not play it. You couldn't write it. You couldn't.
It was too dissonant. It was too whatever.
It was considered dissonant. It was considered evil.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. It's blowing my. It just blows my mind, man. I can't unsee it now. Like I can't unsee it. I just. And I don't know, maybe that's like a nerdy way of thinking about it.
I never thought about
it's
that
just
before.
But to me it's so like simple and human, because if you take all the notes away and all the theory, whatever you want to call it, let's just not even call it anything. Right. If you just sit here and sing you know, root and then major third and then fifth, and we sing that together, it's gonna feel good. Yeah. It's gonna feel good. The minute someone's out, it's going to feel weird because it's like, wait, it's something about it. And this goes back to what you were saying about the vibrations and being there in person. And maybe there's more to it than we realize. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. But there's something to be said about when I sing a note and you sing that exact same note and it's unison. And it's like, we feel it. It's like, oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is.
Lock in.
I feel it. There it is. And you sing a third of it. And that feels good. You sing a fifth above that, and we don't. Whatever you want to sing, equal temperament. You want to sing harmonic, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Just sing. Okay, sing the true third. I don't care. Whatever. That even feels better, to be honest. But you sing it like, and then you all of a sudden you sing a flat 7 1. It just, and then you start playing some blues, flat 5, flat 3, what, and then it just feels good, man. Yeah. Like that shit just feels good.
Yeah.
And I think it's. I don't know. It's in the Harmonic Series, man. It's like how much more obvious can it get? Yeah,
it's already there.
It's like, I don't know. It kind of blew my mind, and now I can't get off of it. Maybe it's just nothing, but I think it's super interesting. I never thought of it like that, and I always wondered, like, why is it flat 7, sharp 4? What the hell is so random? Like you would think it would be like just major scale. I guess that's too simple to really. This is almost even more magical, really, because it's like. Major 1 3 5 is clearly there in the Harmonic Series. Right. It makes all the chords.
Right.
That's why they sound good. Triads sound nice to us in the major scale. Yeah. You know, and you basically get the major scale 1 2 3. You already have the fifth. You already have the octave. I mean, you're basically at a major scale. Put in a 6 and a 7, you're there.
Right.
And a 4, really. I mean, and I don't know. It's just crazy, man. Just like, because like literally over any chord, and this is like, you know, the jazz players and us, it's like, you could be playing in a certain key and then you got a dominant 2 chord and all of a sudden you just play it in the right way and you can make that thing sound bluesy as hell. You can make anything, like, you know, and that's some of the best players, like Wint and all those guys, like, you know, at the end of the day, they're just playing the blues. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I found it really interesting. Maybe I'm just a total nerd, but it kind of just blew my mind. Like, holy shit, the blues is it's in the universe. It's like sitting there on every note. Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah. Maybe that's what I would ask Wint. I'd be like, hey, bro, I got a question.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was nerding out on that the other day. I made a little video just to get it off my chest, kind of thing. But
I'll have to check it out.
I don't know. I just found it really interesting, man. It kind of just blew my mind, because I just love you know, at the end of the day, you know, jazz, you're just playing the blues, man. There's a reason that we all, let's just play blues. Yeah. You know, you better know the blues form or whatever, you know.
Right.
I don't know. It's just,
I mean, and it's usually the entry for a lot of musicians who want to start learning about jazz.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Jamie Ebersol Volume 1, nothing but the blues. You know?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's true.
Side 1, track 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I do a pretty good Jamie. Concert B flat, tuning note.
Well, Mike, it was a pleasure to do this, man.
Likewise.
Anything else you want to add? I mean, I'm sure we'll do this again.
Oh man,
we'll have to do an update. No,
thank you for letting me get on here and rant.
My pleasure, dude.
Go off on tangents and talk about, you know, stuff out of my butt. And
oh, this is great, man. I think if nothing else, this is just I'm gonna be selfish, and this was great for me. So like, if nothing else,
ditto.
But I think people, you know, I was kind of telling you why I've been doing this kind of stuff, you know, ever since, you know, my friend Nina. And just being able to have that captured on YouTube just was it just became like so special and just like gold. I'll show you some of it. I wish you could have met her, but ever since then, and then the whole pandemic, and then, you know, from streaming a lot and really getting into the digital stuff, from doing all this stuff, and just, I don't know, I really like it. And just, I like listening to, you know, I listen to a lot of like comedians, and that's kind of how I wind down from the day after music or whatever. Cool. So I like, you know, and those guys are doing a lot of this stuff, and I love it. It's cool to hear, you know, those guys talk about it. And so I just kind of have been trying to take that with the music stuff, and just, you know, there's so many cool people, especially in SD, that I swear, like, I was literally just hanging out with this guy Kiefer the other day. I don't know if you know Kiefer. He's this great piano player. He's killing it on the internet, and he's got some records. Anyways, he's from SD, and long story short, he needed to borrow some MIDI keyboards. We ended up hanging out, but it was just like being able to talk to, like, you know, like, people need to see these discussions that we're having, and just like the people that are around. Just most people don't know, especially in SD. It's like a hidden gem, man. Yeah. People don't realize, like, you know, Gil's here, Christopher Holliday's here. Hopefully you're here right now. Like, you've been here, like. You know, there's Joshua White's here.
I'll be here permanently very, very soon.
Oh, foreshadow.
I'm moving back. I'm moving back.
So anyways, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
It's good man. It's great to chat with you, man. Likewise. Thanks for your insight, and it's a good hang.
Excellent.
All right, y'all.
Awesome.
Check, where can they find some of your stuff? Just say like
I have a website that's in construction right now, but it's the URL or HTTP, whatever. The address is going to be ironmikebogart.com.
Perfect.
It's going to have, you know, live dates. You know, eventually when I record, it's going to, all that stuff's going to be there. But for right now, you can find me on Facebook. It's just Mike Bogart, and there's also a link to my Facebook artist page, which is Iron Mike Bogart, and that's also my Instagram handle. I just got Instagram up and running.
Cool.
But you can, you know, find me Iron Mike Bogart, and the same thing with my YouTube channel. It's Iron Mike Bogart.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, go on there, follow, subscribe, do all that stuff, comment, say what up, and keep your eye out. All right, man.
Awesome.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. All right, if you liked the video, please go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button. A lot of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel, so I always get people asking me what's the best way to support ElectricLOuieLand. And to be honest, the best way is to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So do that, and share a video and tell your friends. So thank you guys for watching.